So I've used the Daikon radish to make loads of different things. It is one of my favorite plant-based bacons, always will be. I've tried a few different variations of it and it always comes out really good. Now I thought, what if we took our method that we use to prepare the Daikon like bacon and we made thin shaved steak. Now once we have that thin shaved steak, we are going to make a monster steak and cheese sandwich, the Philly cheesesteak. I'm going all the way with this. We're gonna be making the Daikon steak. We're gonna make this taste like steak, have the texture of steak. We're gonna make like a nice cheese whiz-ish kind of sauce to go over top of it, some peppers, onions, mushrooms. This thing's gonna be the full Philly cheesesteak out of the Daikon radish. Let's get going. It's easy to get started. All we're gonna do is just clean our Daikon, just wash it off under the sink because we're gonna keep that skin on. I'm just gonna chop the top off where the head is of the Daikon. We don't need that green part. And then just use a peeler. Now my peeler, I've bent just a little bit. I did that so that way I can get little thicker cuts. And all I did was just kind of like press it on the blade. Be careful, don't cut yourself. And then all we're gonna do is just get those thick cuts of Daikon. We just need these strips. I'm probably not gonna use this whole thing. We're gonna use quite a bit of it. I want like a solid pound of meat. And I'm pressing down hard because sometimes these strips will come out thin. You can kind of see how you can almost see through one side, the other side's a little thick. I want kind of thicker pieces. Now the cool thing with Daikon is it has this really fibrous nature to it. That's what leads to being a really good meat-like texture. I mean, check out the fiber on this. Okay, these are shaved up. This is perfect. This is exactly what we're looking for. You know, we have a nice thin strips. Now at this point, all I'm gonna do is just kind of line them all out. We just want them fairly, want to get as much of the, you know, flat face as we can, because for this next step, we're gonna salt these. Salting them is gonna draw out a lot of the water and it's gonna change the texture of these. So some of these are still pretty crisp. You know, think of like the snap of a carrot. A Daikon is the same way. And you know that a steak and cheese sandwich, it doesn't snap when you bite into it. Okay, so these are salted, they look really good. We're gonna let them sit for about 20 minutes. A lot of the moisture is gonna come out. You can cover them with a paper towel. That's gonna also kind of help draw a lot of that moisture away. 20 minutes, we'll be right back, and then we're gonna flavor these up. So real quick, let me tell you a little bit about something that I've been working on lately. Myself. Fabulous makes it easy for anyone to develop and stick to healthy habits thanks to science-backed daily routines. And as a result, you will feel healthier, fulfilled, and more productive. Fabulous is the #1 app to help you build better habits and achieve your goals. And it's 100% personalized. You can choose between 2 approaches, a self-guided one for habit building or tracking, as well as a guided approach, habit coaching. With self-guided for when you already know how to start building habits, you pick among more than 100 recommended habits or create your own. And with premium, you get unlimited habits to add. Or you can choose guided habit coaching. That's what I did. This is when you need guidance on where and how to start. Personally, I love the daily coaching. Every day I get short 2 to 3 minute coaching sessions designed by the fabulous behavioral science team. And if you watch me regularly, you all know how much I love science. Fabulous is based on behavioral science that breaks down scientifically proven healthy habits into very small tasks that you can easily achieve every single day. Now they start you off with basic habits like drinking water, going for a walk, but you can add habits in like cleaning your home or eating more fruits and vegetables, kind of getting rid of the chaos. It has made such a difference. This app is just fabulous for your life. So gang, start building your ideal routine. The first 100 of you that clicks the link in the description below will get 25% off your subscription. That is a fabulous deal. I love this app. Thank you so much to Fabulous for sponsoring today's video and helping build a better me. I'm loving it. Okay, these have sat. I let them go a little bit longer than I originally thought, but you could see the paper towel is just like, it's dripping wet. There is a lot of moisture that came out of these Daikon radish, which is perfect because that means it's gonna soak up more of the flavoring, and you can see the texture of these has completely changed. There's no more of that fresh veggie snap. This is like a slice of deli meat. Kind of reminds me of like the texture of like a roast beef or something, which is great because that's exactly the texture that we want for a steak sandwich. So at this point, all we need to do, I'm gonna throw these in a colander and then we're gonna run them under some cold water. We wanna make sure that that salt is rinsed off. There's a lot of osmosis happening, so these are gonna already be pretty salty. We're gonna take that into account when we're making the rest of the recipe, but let's get all of that external salt completely gone. Run it under cold water, 5 minutes or so. So these look great. This is perfect. It's exactly what I'm looking for. So now let's flavor them up. We're gonna start off, it's one of my favorite flavoring components when I'm making any sort of steak, Marmite. If you've never had Marmite, Marmite is simply just a yeast extract. It's also rich in B vitamins, which is really great. It is vegan and it tastes like beef. Yeast extract really originated from the yeast, brewer's yeast from like beer factories, from like Guinness. There's a few different versions of this. There's Marmite and there is Vegemite. They're both gonna work about the same. I know there's a lot of people that might fight me on this, but they kind of taste very similar. Taste similar, that's where I'm gonna leave it at. So we're gonna use about a tablespoon of Marmite. I'm just using one of those pieces of Daikon that wipe off my knife here. Along with a teaspoon of blackstrap molasses. Cool thing about blackstrap molasses is, I mean, it does have some sweetness to it, but very little. There's not a whole lot. But blackstrap molasses is loaded in iron. Gives you that nice irony taste, which is a huge compound in the flavor of steak. We're gonna use about a teaspoon of that. Now for the rest of our flavoring, we're just gonna use a tablespoon of nutritional yeast, teaspoon cocoa powder, tablespoon of red wine vinegar. And then last, one of my favorite ingredients, mushroom seasoning. Mushroom seasoning is a mushroom extract. It's loaded in glutamate. It's kind of like a natural MSG. I have no problem using MSG. If you like using MSG, you can probably toss in about a quarter teaspoon in this. That will raise the glutamate levels in it, make it more steaky. Or the mushroom extract, mushroom seasoning will do the same thing. Now for our texture elements, which is gonna make this feel a little bit more like steak and less like a vegetable, I'm gonna add a half teaspoon aquafaba powder. That's gonna thicken up the liquid around this, kind of give the outside of this like a juicy aspect. And then last, just because you need the mouthfeel and the fat, we're gonna use about a tablespoon of coconut oil. Now I'm using a refined coconut oil because refined coconut oil doesn't have any coconut flavor. If you use like organic or natural coconut oil, you're gonna make your steak taste like coconut. Now at this point, all we're gonna do is just toss in our daikon into the flavoring. We can kind of toss it around, just make sure it's kind of coated and all these kind of flavoring things. So this is all mixed together, it's looking good. You can see, I mean, look at it, it's already starting to look steaky. So now I have some water that was just boiled, so almost boiled water, and 1 teaspoon beetroot powder. We're just going to slowly pour that over, make sure that most of this is covered and it's sitting in that liquid. Throw a cover over it and let it sit for about a half an hour or a little longer. The longer you let it sit, the better this is gonna come out. Okay, these have sat, they look unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's like kind of like a light raw meat. That's the texture that we're looking at. So at this point, all we're gonna do is we're gonna take these out. I'm gonna give them like one last squeeze because we don't want all of this juice on here. And then we're gonna drop them onto a baking sheet and then we're gonna throw them in the oven. I have my oven preheated at about 350 degrees. You could do 400 degrees. I think 350 will be okay. And I have my oven on the convection setting because I'm gonna try to dry these out a little bit. They don't need to be as moist for the next step because we kind of want them to brown up. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes. Our steak is almost done. It's looking phenomenal. Now let's make our cheese. We're gonna start with some vegan butter. I'm gonna toss about a tablespoon of vegan butter into a saucepan, and then I'm gonna be using 2 cheeses. I'm gonna mix BioLife cheese. I'm gonna use about 2 slices of BioLife, and then about, 3 or 4 slices of chow. Chow has a really nice, rich, cheesy flavor. Once that gets melted down, you can add some water to it if you want to kind of make it a little bit thinner. Remember, this is Cheese Whiz. Then we're going to add about a quarter teaspoon of sodium citrate. That's going to allow this cheese to get really nice and gooey and not kind of melt back into a solid state. It'll keep it nice and thin. Then to make it a little bit more cheddary, to give it that really Cheese Whizzy flavor, we're going to add a vegan lactic acid. Now this vegan lactic acid is made from beet powder. It's fermented beets. That's how they make it lactic and how it's acid. It has nothing to do with milk. Whisk that up, make your Cheese Whiz. Now we just need to prep our veggies. Of course, we're gonna do green peppers, onions, mushrooms, throw those into a pan with some vegan butter, toss them around, cook them just for a second, then immediately toss in your daikon steak. Let's go ahead and toss it around. Make sure that daikon gets nice and crispy, nice and cooked up. These are in the pan. Everything's looking phenomenal. I mean, just look at this. Look at how insanely meaty this is. I mean, this is gonna be perfect. So we have our hoagie bun. I got this from my local bakery. We're just gonna cut this guy up. You just need a nice, soft, chewy bun. That's the important thing. We're not looking for a crispy outside. We want it to be nice and soft and chewy. I mean, and then just, this looks phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. So we just need to stuff that into our bread. We're not putting anything else on here, just this daikon steak. Pour your cheese over the top. I mean, look at that, look at it. Oh my gosh. I mean, this is a sandwich. Look at this. I'm losing my mind a little bit. Monica's not here. Let's give this a bite. God. This is a vegan steak and cheese. This is the best. This is one of the best Philly cheesesteaks I've had. You can totally lay off the cow with this one. Totally don't need it. This is steaky, it's meaty, the texture is really nice. It still has like a little bit of a bite, you know? I mean, like, if I were to give this to somebody, they would eat it. I know they would enjoy it. It's definitely meaty once you put it all together. If you were to just try the steak on its own, it has a little bit of like that vegetable crisp to it, that like crunch, but that's okay. Once it's in the sandwich, it's definitely really meaty. I mean, super meaty. And then with the cheese melted in there, the vegan cheese, you really just can't. So good. They're so good. I know you're gonna love this one. Make sure you click this video right here. This is my vegan steak playlist. It's meaty, right?
That's crazy.
Isn't it wild?
It's so good. Very meaty.